my neighbors? Happy Monday, March 13th, 2023. Thank you guys so much for joining Loud Majority Live. Yo, we gotta do some of this daylight savings crap, okay? Because I don't know what the hell time it is. My mental clock is all off. Yesterday, I ended up sleeping what felt like all day because I didn't know what time it was. It's not good. There's no reason for this. We used to do something about farmers. I don't know why the hell we even do this anymore. But it's time for daylight savings time to go away because it's completely useless. And there's absolutely no reason for it. But there is a reason to make sure you guys hit that Rumble button. Keep sharing this video out everywhere because it turns out, despite the fact that DEI has to be hidden from high school parents, as we learned from the great and honorable and biggest piece of crap in East Meadow, David Casamentos. Turns out that even though it has to be hidden from high school parents, it can be given to college students. It will be given to college students. As a matter of fact, it will be given to every single student in the SUNY system. It is time for us to start voting with our dollars. That's what has to happen. I know SUNY schools are cheap. That's why I went there. That's why I went to Stony Brook. And I'll be sure when they send me that little fundraising email they send out, what seems like it once a month, that I will be writing them a letter back saying I will never give you guys $1 anymore until you remove this nonsense DEI class that does nothing but hurt children, hurt kids, and has no educational value whatsoever. But I do find it incredibly interesting. I find it incredibly interesting that the second Project Veritas video dropped, now mentioning schools in Jericho, as well as another teacher from East Meadow named Mike Smith. Local news didn't even pick up the second video. They didn't even cover it. They had nothing to do with it. Look, guys, I know News 12 was busy because it's going to snow in the Hudson Valley. Look, I don't know what those people up there are going to do, considering it always snows in the Hudson Valley. There's a little bit of rain outside, so I'm sure the meteorologists at News 12 are freaking out. But we'll see what happens. It would almost be like, I wish there were, former Stony Brook students that worked at News 12 that might want to give their opinion on this nonsense DEI. Maybe there'd be like a young Republican that would work there, but who knows? Who knows? No, she's too busy writing about me, using words written by a guy whose suits don't fit. But hi, Peter. I try to call these people out on the show because, they all hate watch at some point during the day, so I'm sure they'll be seeing this, and they know exactly who I'm talking about. But it turns out DEI is going to be pushed on your kids, whether you like it or not. So, guys, make sure you're sharing this video out all over the place. Put it in all your groups so that everyone can see what's happening. Everyone knows the kind of things that are happening, because you're not getting this in local media. You're not getting this on News 12. You're not getting it on CBS or NBC. I watched all the news coverage following the Project Veritas video, CBS, NBC, ABC, just to see if they would cover it. And, of course, total silence, total media blackout, as if it didn't even exist. And that is fake news. That is what makes them fake news. Because when there's a very obvious story to cover, they choose not to. But they're going to cover another shooting in Harlem. There's another gang shooting in Newark. There's always gang shootings in Newark. What there isn't always is an undercover video of a superintendent of a school openly admitting to lying to teachers. What there isn't is a video of a teacher openly talking about pushing puberty blockers on our kids and laughing about it. What there isn't is some old woman who, in the new Project Veritas video, I don't even know what, I think she works for Ed Camp. I don't even know what she is. She looks like a witch, the old-ass woman with the gray hair, talking about how to trans the kids, talking about how to get your critical race theory into the schools without anybody knowing about it. But this is what you get. So for all the people out there who want to say voting doesn't matter, it's all rigged. Just know that your lack of voting led to Kathy Hochul, led to Lester Young continuing to run the education system in this state. Nothing else to say about it. That's it. The state Senate is winnable. You know how I know that? Because we had it 6 years ago. I worked there when we had the majority and we could stop people like Lester Young. But we don't do that anymore. However, it is election season. School boards are coming up. All of our local elections are coming up. So my question to all of you is, what are you willing to do? What are you willing to do? There's only one part of this county that remains blue, and that's the county executive's office. Will that change? That's entirely up to you guys. We can only do so much on the ground by ourselves. We're going to need the help. So what are you all willing to do? Are you watching this from Queens? Are you helping savages like Vicky Palladino? All of our county legislators are up. Pick one. They're all going to need the help. They're all going to need the help to secure victories to be able to make Long Island what it is. That's it. That's it, and that's all. What are you willing to do? Because apparently now, this coming from Newsday, diversity, equity, and inclusion will soon be required learning for all SUNY students. So in high school, they've got to lie to the parents, say that this isn't happening, sneak it in covertly. But now they're just openly coming out and telling you that all this is going to happen in our local schools. I'm sure people watching this right now have sons, daughters, nieces, nephews who go to these schools, who pay into this program. And if you don't think I'm going to some of our local schools and filming the diversity, equity, and inclusion classes, you're on drugs. There's 64 schools. They can only kick me out of so many of them. And if some of you would like to help, I would certainly enjoy the help too. Just say you're auditing the class. They can't do... Believe me, you go into a 300-room classroom, the professor has absolutely no idea who's in that class. Hell, you go into a 30-person classroom, most of them don't know that either. Let's go there. Everyone's a journalist today. Everyone's got one of these. Go in there, film this crap, and let's get it out. That's the only way we're going to put a stop to this stuff. Only way we're going to put a stop to this. A new rule at all 64 colleges in the State University of New York system requires this fall's incoming freshman class to complete a course before graduating with a diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice component. But a check of Long Island SUNY campuses finds they already offer those classes and meet the requirement. Oh, so it's already been happening. Very nice. Very nice. See how they sneak it in there without telling us? I'm sure some of you watching this right now are currently paying for these schools, currently paying for your kids to be given these classes. And when you wonder why, you send them away to college and they come back assholes. They come back hating everything you taught them the first 18, 19, 20 years of their lives. SUNY joins many other higher educational institutions across the nation with a diversity core element, even as some states, most prominently Florida, take steps to eliminate diversity and inclusion instruction and hiring. Good. Because it turns out your college experience has nothing to do with diversity when everyone thinks the same way. Who cares what a person looks like when every point of view is coming from the same place and gets to the same place? The new rule is part of a 25-point diversity, equity, and inclusion plan announced by SUNY in February 2021. The SUNY Policy Guidance Memorandum to campus presidents on what would be required was released on December 21st, 2021. David Cantafa, whatever, the SUNY Systems Associate Provost for Academic Programming, Planning, and Assessment, said that the intention was to prepare students for diverse campus life, workplaces, and communities. Quote, there's a strong academic, historical, and sociological basis for this in multiple disciplines, even in the STEM fields and health professions. You see, of course, the STEM fields have to be indoctrinated with this woke nonsense? Of course they have to be. Because if you're in the health profession, you need to know that a man actually is a woman when he's not. You have to know that, and you have to make sure you use people's preferred pronouns, because if you don't, you could be giving, how would you know whether or not the man sitting before you, as a health professional, as a nurse, as a doctor, how else would you know if the man sitting in front of you needs a hysterectomy? How would you know that? Maybe I need a hysterectomy. I don't know. I mean, I could. Maybe I haven't really found my true self yet. Maybe I haven't watched enough of the Oscars. Did you see the calamity that was the Oscars yesterday? Holy crap. It's like these people can't do anything without 30-piece bands behind them, but that's another story. How would I know, as a nurse, if I need to have I go to the doctor, I say, Doc, I don't know, something's happening, I'm not really feeling well. He looks at me and says, you know what we should do, Kev? Or Kelly, whatever you want to call me today. We need to give you a hysterectomy. Despite the fact that I do not have the requisite parts to receive one, we need to make sure that this is impacting the STEM fields, the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Because look, if you're going to be a mathematician, you need to know about the brutal and racist history of the Long Island schools that you're in. I mean, sure, maybe you should focus on, calculus or, advanced and harmonic functions, because that's what mathematicians do. They don't really need to know about the fact that male rapists get to go to female prisons, but we're going to make sure we push that shit on them anyway. See, we have to put the diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice framework into the health departments. That way, when your child who's studying to be a nurse, studying to be a doctor, gets out into the real world, they'll know the appropriate amount of puberty blockers to put someone else's child on. They're coming out, and they're just saying it openly. In December 2021, SUNY officials sent a memorandum to the presidents of state-operated campuses that include policy and guidance on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Here's an excerpt. Let's see what this says. Now, this is Newsday giving us an excerpt, so this is going to be the most. This is going to be the most butter-soft, beautiful version of whatever this memorandum said. Required students will describe the historical and contemporary societal factors that shape the development of individual and group identity involving race, class, and gender. Of course, because if you're an engineering student and you're going to build a bridge one day, you've got to make sure you know the societal factors that shape the development of racial groups. They also are going to have to analyze the role that complex networks and of social structures and systems play in the creation and perpetuation of dynamics of power, privilege, oppression, and opportunity, and apply the principles of rights, access, equity, and autonomous participation to the past, current, and future social justice activism. What the hell does that mean? That's not even a sentence. That's like if you put a dictionary in a washing machine. What the hell is that? Apply the principles of rights, access, equity, and autonomous participation to past, current, or former social justice action. Oh, yeah, this sounds like it's going to be a class that really pinpoints what we got going on here. Or it's going to be a totally subjective class written by a person who forces your children to buy books like How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi, the biggest race grifter since, I don't know, Al Sharpton or Jesse Smollett or Jesse Jackson or Joy Reid. The diversity content isn't new to local campuses. However, with the core requirement in place at SUNY Old Westbury since 2001 and at Stony Brook University since 2019. Farmingdale State College, SUNY's online institute at the Empire College, and Nassau and Suffolk community colleges say they already offer eligible courses in the field, from literature to history to women's studies and public health. Turns out it's been going on this whole time, guys, as we've been saying. You remember back when CRT and DEI was first really coming into the mainstream? And you would have liberals say, oh, it's not happening. It's not happening. You're fear-mongering. This is like your slippery slope argument. You guys do this all the time. And then they were saying, well, maybe it's happening, but it's only happening in upper college level classes, like law schools. And then it was, well, I mean, it's happening in college, but what are you going to school board meetings for? This stuff's not happening in high schools. And then we get videos like David Casamento and Mike Smith from East Meadow saying that not only is it happening in high schools, but it's happening all over the place. And if you don't like it, you're a racist. You're a bigot. You're a transphobe. You don't want your children to be put on puberty blockers and see naked men in the locker room at the age of 12. There's something wrong with you. If that Project Veritas video showed anything, it's that you've been right all along. We've been right all along. We knew this was happening. You know, it's so funny. A few years ago, Stephen Colbert said a very interesting statement. He said, all it is to be a liberal is to live in reality, because reality has a liberal bias. And I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, that takes a real pair of balls to say. That takes a real pair of balls to say. However, I think it's fairly obvious that now, what is it to be a conservative? I think it's just to be 2 years ahead of the news cycle, 2 years ahead of the mainstream, 2 years ahead of whatever fledgling news outlet wants to put out. We've known it's been happening for years, but the fact is that no one listened. Well, they're going to start listening now. Because if you don't think I'm going to go to all these classes, some of you should come with me. It'll be hilarious. I'll never forget this as long as I live. I made the mistake in college. I took a women's studies class for the same reason why every guy takes a women's studies class in college, to meet girls. Of course, every other guy on campus had the exact same idea that I had, and it turns out that in a room of 300 people, there were actually 275 guys in it, but that's really not the point. I actually had a professor say to me that when we were going over the historical rights of women, she actually had the balls to say to the entire class, when we talk about the religious persecution of women, we will not be singling out any particular religion for good or for bad. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, all right, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. You know, in the past, maybe women haven't had it great in all religions in different contexts. And then she said, because today all religions persecute women equally. And I sat there and went, okay, all right, we're done here. We're done here. What are we talking about? All religions persecute women equally? Really? How many Catholics out there force their women to dress up like, I don't know, beekeepers, like they do in the Muslim world? Any of yous? Any of you gone to church and only seen a woman's eyes because she's covered from head to toe? These are the sorts of lies that get pushed in some of these colleges. I bring it up all the time. My favorite college class when I was in college, it was the history of journalism. And it went from the Gutenberg printing press all the way up through 9/11 and through social media. And my professor, John Sanders, is Bernie Sanders' cousin. And I'm going to be honest with you, one of the coolest people I think I've ever met in my life. We argued, we disagreed, it was always civil, but a really interesting guy. Really interesting guy. He worked for CBS at the end of the Cold War. He had great stories. He was at the fall of the Berlin Wall. Really interesting stuff. And we're going over the history of journalism, and we get to like the Birmingham era in civil rights, 1960s, late 1960s, Martin Luther King time. And I'll never forget this. We were seeing the pictures of like the Birmingham police sicking dogs on black people. Obviously a disgusting photo. But there were iconic photographs in American history during that time period. And a girl in class actually had the balls to say, well, I guess not much has changed. And then we went on a 2-hour diatribe about how nothing has changed for black people in this country. From the days of Birmingham to today. And I sat there flabbergasted that this professor, who had lived in the Soviet Union, had seen the atrocities that went on in places like East Germany, could hear a student say that and not correct them. This is how this stuff happens. It doesn't happen in one foul swoop. It happens in drips and drabs. Any good insurgency does it 2 inches at a time. Little by little, piece by piece, chipping away at what your young people know. Because as we've seen, we've played the clip numerous times on this show, Yuri Bezmenov, he talks about how all you got to do is infect one generation. And that's it. And they're doing it now. They're doing it now. And now they're being open about it. They're starting them off in college. They're starting them off in high schools covertly. That way they get a nice little foundation for when they end up at Stony Brook. Back to the article. The objectives of this new requirement are very similar to the learning outcomes for Old Westbury's long-term diversity requirement. So we don't expect major changes from our curriculum as we implement the new SUNY requirement, said SUNY Old Westbury Associate Provost Barbara Hillary. The schools are reviewing their courses to be ready for the fall. A lawmaker seemed. Thankfully, there is somebody here who actually cares. The enactment of the new rule aroused concerns among some state lawmakers and their constituents. State Senator Dean Murray of East Patchogue said that others in the Senate Education Committee were reassured by Chancellor John B. King Jr. that students would not have to take separate courses on diversity or pay for extra credits. However, he said he wants to see the course content and make sure students are not graded on whether they express their beliefs and ideas they may not agree with. Come on, Dean! Come on, Dean! You know they're going to be graded on. You think that if you take one of these DEI classes and you walk in with a Make America Great Again hat on, you think you're passing that class? Come on. How naive could you be? Damn it, man. Initially, there was a pretty big response, a concern that we were making this a full standalone course, said Murray, who last month co-signed a letter to King with other two committee members asking for clarification. I think the fears have subsided somewhat, but there is still the question, what exactly does it consist of? We're still waiting on that. You're never going to get the answer, bro. Come on, Dean, you're better than that. You're still waiting for the answer, so make a bigger fuss. Hold a press conference. Do something. Instead of putting a quote in a newspaper no one's going to fucking read. He added he believed college is a place for conversations to expand the mind and talk about these things. My concern is when a particular viewpoint or opinion is presented as fact and then students are graded on whether or not they agree with that. Well, Dean, welcome to 5 years ago. Welcome to the Obama administration. Quote, certainly there is no commitment for a student to say, I will live a life according to X, Y, or Z viewpoint, he said. Unbelievable. He said that this is the assistant provost, Cantifa, whatever the hell his name is. Cantifa said the students would not be judged or graded on their values, but rather their grasp of the course content. Yes, of course. Of course they're going to be graded on their grasp of the course content. When the course content says that white people are racist no matter what they do, and black people are never racist because of systemic oppression power. Like, come on, guys. You don't think that these students are going to have to hear about the saint, the heavenly angel, the God King himself, George Floyd? Or as I call him, the violent junkie, who I think he's got about 100. I think he's got about 1,100 days sober. Congratulations, George. It's the fact that people can't see through this. The fact that our lawmakers allow these things to happen just shows their ineptitude. If you guys did anybody watch Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger testify before Congress the other day? It was one of the most incredible videos ever. Watching old people not know what Substack is. Watching people not know what journalism actually has become in this country. My favorite part of that was when they called Michael Schellenberg, when they called Matt Taibbi a so-called journalist. The irony, of course, is he was called that by the congresswoman from the U.S. Virgin Islands, who actually is a so-called congresswoman because she can't vote on bills because she's not from a state. The picture at Long Island SUNY schools. Here we go. The Farmingdale State College, about a quarter of the courses qualify, said Vice Principal Laura Joseph. So a quarter of the courses at Farmingdale State College qualify for this. What are we? And I went to Farmingdale for a year. What are we teaching people? This is so sad that this is. Farmingdale has always embraced the concept of inclusivity on our campus and what that means for students. Joseph said, "We really want to hit the ground running, and we made sure we had courses that met the requirement for DEI and social justice." It's happening everywhere. It's happening all over the place. New and adopted courses in sociology, literature, political science, and other fields will qualify under the new rule, she said, and their instructors must, quote, undergo training to become certified DEI and social justice instructors, including on how to engage students in discussions around sensitive issues. Just out of curiosity, do you really think any of the conservative professors are going to be able to certify in DEI and social justice? Oh, that's right. You don't have any. You don't have any. I would be curious, Laura Joseph, do a straw poll of all your professors and see how many of them voted for Lee Zeldin. Not even Donald Trump. We don't even have to go to Donald Trump. How many of them just voted for Lee Zeldin, a moderate Republican? How many Republican voter registration drives are your political science professors engaging in? Probably not many. Hillary, the associate provost at SUNY Old Westbury, said that in the fall of 2020, there were about 37 different courses of about 700 met the diversity general education requirement that had been in place on the campus since 2001. Old Westbury, real nice. Courses such as, you ready? Social detriments of health. Oh yeah, that's real good. Social detriments of health. What the hell does that mean? Or adulthood and aging. You got to give a class on adulthood? Guys, if your kids went to Old Westbury, just know they had a class on what it means to be an adult, which fulfill the existing requirement and would probably meet the new... No, it won't. It won't meet the new diversity requirement. Stony Brook University, since the fall of 2019, has required all undergraduate students to engage with DEI via DIV category in the Stony Brook curriculum. DIV stands for Respect, Diversity, and Fostering Inclusion. And as such, it is already satisfying the requirements for the SUNY initiatives. It's unbearable. It's unbearable. Courses with the DIV designation also may satisfy other core requirements. Such courses include contemporary Caribbean women literature. What? Contemporary Caribbean women's literature, which also meets the humanities and global issues category, and the early republic, which also carries an American history designation. What the hell is contemporary Caribbean women's literature? How about math? I don't know, Stony Brook. Do better. Well, at least one conservative... Wow. Wait a minute, there's 2 conservative professors at Suffolk Community College? Let's read this. Now I'm intrigued. While at least one conservative Suffolk County Community College professor has been outspoken opponent of the rule. Oh, no, never mind. I take that back. It's just Nick. While at least one conservative Suffolk Community College professor has been outspoken opponent of the new rule, Drew Bondi, the Suffolk Community College spokesperson, said Suffolk's faculty has long embraced diversity, equity, and inclusion and made it part of their classroom conversations. Well, turns out, Nick Giordano, you're going to have to transfer, I guess. Nick Giordano, good friend of the show. Make sure you guys give a follow to the PAS report. In the summer of 2021, it launched its Jedi Institute, a pilot program to help educate faculty in just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive environments. The Jedi Institute was funded by a $35,000 grant from the American Federation of Teachers, run by Randy Weingartner. Yeah. Well done, everybody. Well done, but this is what you're going to get. This is exactly what you're going to get. We've always known this was happening, and now we've got the proof of it. It's time to start using your dollars to get out of the way. You got to send your kids away. You got to send them to schools in Florida. You have to. What else are you going to do? I know a lot of people like to shit on Ron DeSantis right now because he may be running for president. But you know what? You're not going to get this crap at the University of Florida. You're not going to get this at Florida Atlantic. You're not going to get it at Miami. You're not going to get it at Florida State. You're going to get 4 years in the land of freedom. 4 years in a land where you don't have to be told how racist you are. 4 years where I cannot wait for them to initiate these classes. I cannot wait. You're not going to keep me out of them. And if you keep me out of them, I'll send somebody else. So if Lester Young's out there watching or any of the... Maybe I'll start out at Suffolk. That'll be fun. Maybe I'll start out there and then I'll just work my way up. There's 64 schools in the SUNY system. They can't kick me out of all of them, can they? Let me ask you. It's about 400 people watching right now. Any of you guys want to go to these schools and film these classes? Any of you want to go and see the sort of educational zealotry that is going on in the contemporary Caribbean women's literature class? Maybe we could, you know what? If you want to cut the cost of college down, why not cut that class out? Because it turns out if you want to read contemporary Caribbean women's literature, you can go to the library for free. You don't need some idiot with a master's degree in apparently not even American literature undercover. Yeah, Dana, roll tide. You're lucky. Nah, Frank. I'll go in there with my damn shirt on. They're not going to say shit to me. How many of you guys want to go and check this stuff out with me? I think it'll be fun. Yes, Louis Farrakhan, one of the worst people on planet Earth. Way to stop this, a class action lawsuit. Yeah, well, start it up. I'll join you. 21 Jump Street. Yeah, that'll go over well. Guys, we're rocking and rolling. It's almost 9 o'clock. Sorry about starting a little late today. As I said at the beginning of the show, daylight savings time is utterly useless, and there's absolutely no point to even having it. So it screwed up my whole morning commute, and apparently it did everybody else too. So, guys, make sure you hit that Rumble button if you're on Facebook. Hit the like button. Share this video out so that all of your friends who are paying for their kids to go to the SUNY system, to go to the SUNY programs, they know that their kids are currently being poisoned and taught to hate them. Because I'm sure every one of you has an uncle or a cousin or a brother or a mother who's a cop. You don't think they're going to be You don't think they're going to be taught how racist policing is in the United States in these diversity, equity, and inclusion classes? You don't think they're going to be taught that crap? It's just a reality thing. Just reality, folks. Make sure you guys are sharing this video all over the place. Please take the Rumble URL, share this out everywhere. Make sure you guys check out LFA TV at 1 p.m. for my 1 o'clock show. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Also, head on over to loudmajorityus.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out the shop. So, that's the best way to support what we've got going on over here. Shoot me a message if you're looking to get involved in the coming months. You can message me on Facebook or Instagram. We're putting together a list of people that we want that want to get involved, really want to be a part of this, because as I said, we've got local elections coming up, and we got big things happening. So shoot me a message if you're looking to get involved, and we'll see what we can work out for you. We're not going to be able to get everybody, but we should be able to get some people. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Until 1 p.m. today, everybody have fun turning all of your manual clocks back. I gotta turn one back in the office right here, but until 1 p.m. over on LFA TV. We just hit 50,000 subscribers. Super excited about that. Guys, until then, stay loud.